Hello, this is Steve, your YouTube English teacher, and we're doing a bit more speaking today. We're focusing on part 3, making suggestions, because in this part of the exam, you have to make suggestions on some random scenario or topic. So I've got a video with some hopefully interesting speaking activities that you are motivated to do, and some useful phrases that you can learn and practice to be able to use them in the exam and fulfill that function that is expected in the exam. So the point of today's class is, I've sort of copied this from some old videos that my students used to make me watch. It was like Lena or Laurie or something, where they give you two different things, two different scenarios, and you have to say which one you prefer. We're going to do something similar with different scenarios, but make it a bit more of a developed speaking activity. For example, in class, in your pairs, practicing with someone, should we stay at home and watch a film, or go to the cinema, or even stay at home and watch a series, or go to the cinema and watch a film? And the idea is we are suggesting alternatives and practicing our suggesting phrases. For example, we might as stay at home because the weather's awful. It rained all day yesterday. We might as, what's that expression for making a suggestion, saying we should do it? We might as well. Really useful expression you can use for part 3 when you want to highlight one of the options, one of the suggestions. Well, we might as well do this. On the other hand, it's about time we to the cinema. It's been months. We haven't been in a long time. It's about time we, what's the what's the better tense with this expression that shows you can use this expression as it's often used in English? It's about time we went. This is a bit of a backshifted. It's not backshifted. I think it's actually subjunctive, to be technical, but we use the past simple with it's about time, it's high time. It's been so long since we went to the cinema, it's about time we went. And then you can continue making suggestions. And the idea is you take turns making suggestions until one person runs out of ideas. And you can say, yes, but I can't be bothered to go because I don't want to have to get in the car, and it's easier just to stay at home and I'll cook something as well. So yes, but if we go to the cinema, we can get some popcorn, and we don't have any popcorn at home and I fancy some popcorn. Okay, but if we stay at home, we haven't finished that series that we're watching. We are watching the new series of Gen V and it's really, really good. Okay, but there's the one battle after another that's in the cinema at the moment that we wanted to watch. And you keep making these suggestions by passing on the conversation, by using suggestion phrases, the functions, the skills that are expected in speaking part 3. Let's give some more examples because we can keep doing this. In this scenario, one of you wants to sell the house, sell the place, the flat, the house that you currently live in. The other one wants to renovate it. This is a debate that I am really having with my partner. Nice problems we have, hey? So you could be saying things like, the sooner we move house, what goes in that gap? Do you know it? The sooner the better. When you're saying, I think we should do it. Well, the sooner we do it, the better. And then explain why. Because the kids are very young, so it's better to move now when they're very young, before they, realize what's happening, or so they can appreciate the new house for longer, and so on. On the other hand, why don't we just remove the wall between the kitchen and living room, and then we'll have a nice modern house in the house we currently live in? How about removing the wall? How about for a suggestion? Of course, you know this phrase, very useful phrase for your speaking part 3. And you can continue this debate and try and get into the role play a little bit and put yourself in the situation and express these ideas with the suggestion phrases. Another one that might be more appealing to young people. In this scenario, one of your friends has got a bad boy for a boyfriend. Oh, he's a bit naughty. Maybe he smokes. Maybe he listens to rap music or something like this. He's a bad boy. Should your friend stay with him, or should they break up? You're going to make alternative suggestions for staying with the bad boy boyfriend or breaking up, such as, I'm going to do is talk to him and change his ways. So you can fix him, you can change him, and he'll be a better boyfriend. What I'm going to do is a way of introducing your ideas and potentially a suggestion. Or I think you ought, how do we use this word ought? A nice variation on your vocabulary for should. You ought to do something. You ought to break up with him. He's only going to cause you problems. You're always going to be going through this drama. Just split up. And you can keep arguing and hopefully get into it a little bit. In this scenario, you have the option of having a very well-paid job in the city. Imagine in the future you've got a well-paid job in the city, or an average salary in a town. And you're going to have this debate. Would you prefer a well-paid job in the city, like double the average salary, twice as much, or a normal job in the town, in the countryside? And you can say things like, I would suggest for work in the capital as there are more opportunities. How do we use suggest in English? Please be careful with this. Very common mistake. You suggest ing. I would suggest looking for work. That's the whole point of this question, is to make you think suggest ing. When you use suggest, it must be with ing, or suggest that you look for work, because suggest is followed by a noun phrase, as I've talked about in other videos. But a small town, living is cheaper. You're making this suggestion with a question. Why don't you stay in a small town? So living is cheaper. Your money goes further. You don't have the stress of the capital. On the other hand, you have all the cultural opportunities in the capital. You're making fairly typical arguments, which, as I've talked about in a lot of my videos, is what they want in these speaking exams. Show that you can express typical arguments in English. So do it. Like, this is a fairly typical argument. Tell me that you can make these arguments, use these functions, suggesting, and make it all fluent and clear. And our final scenario, would you prefer to have a big SUV, a big sports utility vehicle, a big 4x4, or a small electric sports car? You have to choose one of them. I mean, they're both nice, both quite impractical, but which one are you going to choose? And you're going to say things like, taking everything into consideration. I guess, do we say under consideration? Taking everything under consideration sounds a bit strange to me. Maybe it's possible, but into sounds more common to me. Of course, an SUV is comfortable, but people might find it easier. You might find it easier. You might find it. So we're using this phrase to be able to give descriptions of things which are good or bad, or easy or difficult, and so on, and therefore influence your suggestion. So you might find it easier to drive a smaller car because, this big monster, where do you park it if you live in the city? Oof, difficult. So there we go. You are making suggestions on different scenarios. The only thing that remains to be done is for you to do this yourself. Think of one of these that could be in like a C1 or B2 speaking part 3. What kind of scenarios do we talk about? Things like different types of food, ways of studying, different hobbies, ways of keeping fit. All of these are possible areas for discussion in speaking part 3. And then you can do it. You can do it yourself. And that's how you're going to learn a lot more. I hope that was useful. Goodbye.